Our story begins with a brother who married one of those modern women, the kind who spends all day at home insisting that everyone split every single expense. She wanted his mother and brother to pay their fair share of the food and for the water and electricity bills to be divided equally. Even when his father bought her a birthday cake, she insisted on transferring him the money. After all, if that's how things are, a supposed freeloader living off the family, well, he would have to support the cause too. So he simply turned around and canceled all the family's supplementary cards, including the unlimited one held by his sister-in-law, Lamine. Now look closely, she says. Since we all live under this roof, we have to follow the rules. This month's rent, plus the water, electricity, and food, comes to $15,000 in total. Transfer or cash, it's $15,000. He can hardly believe it, but I've barely set foot in the kitchen. Does gold come out of the pipes or something? Don't give me that nonsense, she replies. You spend the entire day here at home. Are you telling me you didn't use the lights? And what about the internet? Did you not use that either? As a modern woman, I'd never take a penny from anyone, but I won't let anyone mooch off me either. He points out that they even split the chives, ginger, and garlic, but then asks why when she bought that Dyson dryer. It never occurred to her that they should split the cost of that, too. Exactly, Lumine. The mother chimes in. Your sister-in-law is right. Clear accounts make for long friendships, as they say. Your brother works his fingers to the bone every day, from sunrise to sunset, just to support this family. And you, on the other hand, spend all your time locked in your room playing video games like a total dependent. What's so wrong with you paying something toward the household expenses? He turns to his sibling. Brother, do you really think I should have to pay these $15,000? Well, he stammers. Xiao Wang is only doing it for the good of the family. Just look at it as if you were helping me out, the brother says, trying to smooth things over. We're family, after all. There is really no need for you to be so sensitive about it. And here the mother chimes in immediately. Did you hear that? Your brother has already spoken. It's time you stop being a moocher in this house, she adds, without a hint of irony, of course. I don't raise lazy people, and your sister-in-law is absolutely right about this. Clear accounts keep a family together, and I, for one, believe in splitting every expense. And since everyone is so independent now, stop talking and transfer that money immediately. In that case, the money. Well, he realizes that living under this roof has become a battlefield. We see that there is no point in arguing when the logic of the house has become so volatile. That's fine, dear, the mother says, already looking toward the next part of her day. To be honest, she seems to think that everything is proceeding perfectly well. But of course, the tension in the room is still thick enough to cut with a knife. He looks around, wondering if anyone else sees the sheer absurdity of this so-called fairness. And you really think that money is yours? Apologize to your sister-in-law right now. A moment later, the brother tries to play peacemaker. All right, stop fighting. Xiao Wang, didn't you have an appointment at the spa with Mrs. Wan and her friends? It's almost time, so you'd better hurry up and get going before you're late. Go where? She retorts. If we don't settle these accounts today, no one here will have any peace. The accounts are already clear, he replies calmly. From now on, you spend your money, and I'll spend mine. I'll even get the door for you, he adds, leaving Lu Min stunned by his sudden nerve. You'll pay for this later, she mutters. My love, today I'm getting that $68,000 annual membership, so no one can say I spend family money. A little later, we find him seated on a leather sofa, handing several identification documents to the manager standing before him. Mr. Liu, here are the unlimited supplementary cards you requested for your family members, the manager says professionally. All charges will be billed directly to your primary account, he explains, confirming the arrangement. Perfect, just don't tell them, he insists repeatedly. Whatever you do, do not tell my brother that this is actually my card. Tell them they are a gift from the bank. He cares a great deal about his image, you see. We then find Lin Xiaowan. She is sitting on a luxurious velvet sofa, legs crossed with an air of supreme confidence. Nearby, several high society ladies are enjoying their tea, observing the scene with quiet interest. She raises her voice on purpose, making sure she has an audience as she pulls a black card from her bag. Mrs. Lin, can you confirm you want the 68,000 VIP annual membership? The clerk asks for everyone to hear. Is that correct? Yes, go ahead and charge it immediately, she replies, enjoying the attention. Exactly. Oh, a woman really must pamper herself a little every now and then, don't you think? Not like some others, who need a man to pay for them even if it's just for a simple cup of coffee. I, on the other hand, have always been financially independent, she declares, which is a bit of a stretch, to be honest. Just process that 68,000 membership for me right now, she commands, handing over the card. It has no credit limit. Surely it's your piece of junk machine that isn't working properly, she snaps when the transaction fails. Try running it again, she insists with a nervous laugh. Yes, the situation was becoming quite awkward. Oh, Xiao Wang, didn't you just say that modern women should be independent and never spend a man's money? One of the ladies asks. How is it that as soon as the account holder gets upset, he cancels it on you? Mrs. Wang, you're mistaken. My husband forced this card on me. Normally, I wouldn't even deign to use it. It must have been an accounting error at his company, she insists, trying to save face. I'll call him right now to ask what's going on, she adds, though her confidence is clearly wavering. Your terminal got lucky today. I just remembered I have an urgent meeting at the office. I'll leave the card here and come back another day, she says, a classic exit strategy, to be honest. Later, we find her confronting Luai. You think you're so important now, don't you? She snaps. Are you trying to act like a tough guy now, or what? Luai looks up, completely bewildered. My love, what's wrong? Weren't you supposed to be at the spa? Who made you so angry, he asks. Who made me angry, she repeats, her voice rising. Well, who else could it possibly be besides you? Why on earth did you cancel my card? She demands, cornering him. Do you have a mistress somewhere? Did you transfer all the money to her and cancel mine? Of course not, he protests. I've been home all day. I haven't gone anywhere. My love, let go of me first. Ow, 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 he cries out as she grabs him. At that moment, his mother intervenes. Xiaowang, what is this? You just got here and you're already making a scene. Your husband works very hard every day, and yet you still dare to hit him? He works hard? He works hard. Xiaowang scoffs, her frustration boiling over. Then why won't he let me pay for a simple $68,000 membership? Mom, why don't you ask your precious little son why he blocked the black card in my wallet? I was made to look like a complete fool today in front of Mrs. Wang and all the others. Luai tries to find the words. That card isn't actually. Oh, my love, maybe the bank system really is just updating. Luai pleads, desperate to calm the storm. Please, let's not make a scene, all right? He begs, though we can see his words are having little effect. Huh, updating the system? Xiaowang scoffs, her eyes flashing with pure disbelief. The machine was very clear about what the cardholder had done. Don't treat me like a fool. Luai, I demand an explanation this very instant, she continues, cornering him once again. If you don't give me one, things simply cannot go on like this. You're just a good-for-nothing who only knows how to pretend to be something he's not. And that's when Lu Ming decides to drop a bombshell. Stop asking him. I was the one who canceled it. Ha. You Lu Ming? She laughs, finding the very idea utterly ridiculous. Have you started hallucinating from playing too many video games? I told you before, I fully support your idea of splitting all the expenses, Lu Ming says calmly. Ha. Yes, from now on, everything in this house is going to be divided. And obviously, that means you no longer have the right to use my secondary card. Your card? Lu Ming, you don't even know how to lie properly, she sneers. You're a slacker who can't even cover your $15,000 in household expenses. A poor devil who lives for free in this house, leeching off everyone else. And you're trying to tell me that a black card with no limit belongs to you? Even his mother is stunned. Lu Ming, have you lost your mind or what? Have you got a screw loose? Your sister-in-law is furious and you're just adding fuel to the fire. But Lu Ming just laughs, a sound that, to be honest, only makes the situation more tense. Xiaowang erupts into a fit of laughter, her voice dripping with mockery. She continues to laugh, finding the entire situation beyond absurd. And you're still trying to claim that it's an unlimited card? She asks through her giggles. If you actually had money, would you still be a moocher living in this pigsty? Luai tries to intervene, pleading for her to stop, insisting that the card is indeed real. You shut your mouth, she snaps. Where would a parasite like him ever get that kind of money? Oh, very well, Lu Ming. Since you insist on playing the rich man, from today on, we're settling every single account. No one takes advantage of anyone else anymore. This half is mine, and that half is yours. She laughs again as she starts marking things. I bought this carton of eggs, so don't you dare touch them. I've already drunk half of this milk, so you'll have to pay me back for every milliliter. The mother sighs in exasperation, watching the scene unfold with growing dread. You're going to scratch the entire refrigerator door with that marker, she warns. Besides, your brother just bought those eggs last night. We are a family, she reminds them. Why must we be so strict with the accounts? Mom, stay out of this, Xiaowang retorts. Today, everything must be made crystal clear. The tension in the room is broken only by more of her sharp, mocking laughter. It seems she truly cannot get over the perceived ridiculousness of Lu Ming's claim. She continues to laugh, fueled by a mixture of anger and pure disbelief. To be honest, the situation has devolved into something quite pathetic to witness. And yet, she keeps laughing, convinced she has the upper hand in this family feud. She lets out another burst of laughter, unable to contain her amusement. The laughter continues, echoing through the room as she mocks him, finding the entire situation more ridiculous by the second. It is a truly relentless display. She simply cannot stop herself from laughing at his expense. Her mockery fills the air, sharp and biting, as she continues her fit. To be honest, it's becoming a bit much, even for her. But the disbelief is just too strong, and so the laughter carries on. We see her doubled over now, completely swept up in her own derision. It's a scene of pure, unadulterated scorn that seems like it will never end. Every time she looks at him, another wave of giggles takes hold of her. She is thoroughly convinced that he is nothing more than a fraud. The laughter finally begins to taper off into a series of sharp breaths. She wipes a tear from her eye, still grinning with pure malice. And just where do you think you're going to go? She asks mockingly. Lu Ming turns to his mother and tells her not to pay any attention, saying they should just let her leave. He wonders aloud if she won't just end up on the street, starving and alone. He is certain that, sooner or later, she will come back crying and begging for their help. Lu Ming then picks up the phone. Yes, movers, please come right now to pack up the entire house. The movers didn't take long to arrive and start filing through the door. Lin Xiaoban, arms crossed and wearing a smug smile, leans against the doorframe as she watches Lu Ming pack his clothes into a box. Well, look how fast you're moving, she remarks with a sneer. Gentlemen, make sure you watch exactly what you're taking, all right? We wouldn't want you grabbing something valuable from our house by mistake. She calls him a penniless loser, claiming that if he breaks or scratches anything, he won't have a cent to pay for it. He simply can't afford it. Gentlemen, please be extremely careful with this digital drawing tablet. It contains data for a very important commercial project, after all. And those figures in the display case, wrap them in a triple layer of bubble wrap. Honestly, 30 years old and still wasting his life with useless computers and plastic toys. To her, Lu Ming is nothing but a good-for-nothing who only knows how to play games. She wonders aloud how much all this junk could even be worth. And yet, he treats it as if it were some kind of treasure. It's truly pathetic. To her, it's not worth a thing. He estimates it's worth about 100,000 pesos. Yes, 100,000. What, have you finally lost your mind from being so poor? She asks if he's daydreaming, unable to believe this pile of cheap plastic is worth 100,000. If he actually had that much, would he still be refusing to pay his 15,000 peso monthly share? He brags without a second thought. My boy, just look at your brother for a moment. She's convinced he's telling nothing but lies and demands they just kick him out already. Just looking at him makes me angry, she snaps, before telling her mother to finally shut up. It's truly a pity how frightening ignorance can be. She doesn't even know what high-end peripherals are. Lu Ming simply tells the men to start packing and take everything downstairs. We see the movers begin their work, carrying the boxes out one by one. Lin Xiaoban stands there, watching the room as it slowly becomes empty. For a brief moment, an almost imperceptible flash of panic flickers in her eyes. She quickly turns away, retreating to a quiet corner of the balcony to make a call. Hello, Mrs. Wan. Yes, of course. Tomorrow afternoon for tea at the Peninsula Hotel. Sounds lovely. I wouldn't miss it for the world, she says, her voice suddenly dripping with forced charm. She insists she'll be there, adding that they will obviously be splitting the bill. She claims she hates depending on others, as modern women must always be independent, or so she says. Once she hangs up, her face falls. She was only approved for 50,000 with a sky-high interest rate. She tells herself there's no other way. It's an emergency, after all. Her plan is to pay it back as soon as Luai receives his next salary. In her mind, she simply cannot afford to look bad in front of her wealthy group of friends. Lu Ming can only scoff at the absurdity of her taking out high-interest loans just to feed her vanity. Deep down, he knows she is digging her own grave with those decisions. He throws his backpack over his shoulder and reaches down for the handle of his suitcase. The wheels make a dull, hollow thud as they begin to roll across the floor. Out on the balcony, Lin Xiaoban hears the sound and immediately hides her phone away. She puts on an air of superiority and approaches him with a firm, confident stride. Go on, just get out of here already, she snaps, and leave the keys. She warns him not to even think about setting foot back in this house again. She tells him not to worry, asking if he really thinks he'll ever eat here again. She hopes that out there in the real world, he finally learns his lesson. In her mind, this is the only way he will value what he had at home. She tells him not to come back later, crying and begging his brother to take him in. She claims they don't support slackers here, before mockingly telling Minshi to take care out there. She adds that if he can't make it, his good boy act is honestly quite disgusting. The mother intervenes, asking her how she dares to speak to her brother that way. She calls him ungrateful and screams at him to leave, to get out right this instant. Lu Ming pauses, calmly reminding them that next month's $12,000 mortgage is now their responsibility. And just like that, the security door slams shut right in front of him. Through the gap, he can just barely hear Lin Xiaoban letting out a shrill, mocking laugh. He lifts the handle of his suitcase and turns toward the elevator, leaving that toxic atmosphere behind forever. After 3 long years, he finally feels he no longer has to pretend. He tells himself that, at last, he doesn't have to crawl or beg for anyone's approval. We see him later, placing his expensive digital drawing tablet in front of a wide, bright window. He sets it down carefully upon a spacious workbench made of solid, high-quality wood. His steady fingers reach out and press the power button, ready to begin a new chapter. The screen flickered to life instantly, casting a soft glow over his now completely relaxed face. This was the life, an urgent request for a new S-Class original character illustration, paying 200,000 for full rights. The client asked if he accepted, and without a second thought, he did. He directed the deposit to his usual account, wondering just how many days Lin Xiaoban would last on those miserable wages. Meanwhile, we see Lin Xiaoban looking quite comfortable, lounging on the sofa with a black seaweed mask on her face. With her legs crossed and a fancy little beauty gadget in hand, she massaged her face in slow, circular motions. The mother was sitting right beside her, contentedly snacking on sunflower seeds. She remarked to her mother how incredibly spacious the living room looked now. She added that it was about time they kicked that freeloading Lu Ming out of the house. She planned to find someone tomorrow to clean that room and build a walk-in closet covering the entire wall. It would be her personal dressing room, a perfect plan in her eyes. The mother agreed, telling Xiaoban that she certainly knew how to live the good life. She complained that the boy did nothing but idle around the house, and that just looking at him brought bad luck. Now that he was gone, she claimed the very energy of the house felt significantly better. The daughter scoffed, noting how he even had the nerve to threaten them on his way out. She found the idea of them paying the mortgage themselves to be nothing short of laughable. Since the house was in Luai's name, she assumed the mortgage was always covered by Luai's housing fund. She wondered what an unemployed loafer like him could possibly have to do with any of it. To be honest, she felt he simply loved acting as if he were more important than he actually was. In her view, he was just a stubborn man who refused to admit when he had been defeated. She told herself they would see what happened once he was starving out there in the real world. She was certain he would come crawling back with his tail between his legs to beg for their forgiveness. And when that day came, she planned to force him to fix everything he had supposedly broken. The daughter of the house was busy getting herself ready. Luai checked the fuse box, noting that everything seemed to be in perfect working order. If the breaker hadn't tripped, he wondered, then why on earth was the power out? The mother asked if he had simply forgotten to pay the electricity bill again. Xiaoban complained about her beauty device, which, as she pointed out, cost thousands of pesos. It hadn't even finished charging, so she told him to get his phone out and pay the bill immediately. Luai stammered, admitting he thought the building management handled the payments automatically. His sister snapped back that they did, of course, but only if someone bothered to register a card. She asked why he was just standing there, wondering if he wanted her skin to suffer. She demanded to know if he wanted her to die of heat in the dark, but then she saw the balance. They owed a fortune. She asked if they were running a secret mine in the house to justify such a massive bill. She told Luai to hurry up and just pay it once and for all. She insisted he get the lights back on, claiming she was practically roasting alive. Luai hesitated, finally confessing that he didn't actually have any money left in his account. He explained that he had used this month's entire salary just 2 days ago to pay the minimum on her credit card. She was incredulous, asking how he could possibly have no money left in his payroll account. She asked him if he hadn't always claimed to have plenty of savings tucked away in his account. She snapped at him, asking if he was deaf and demanding he pay the electricity bill right that second. But the answer was a simple, devastating no. He truly had no money left. He tried to explain that, previously, all of these expenses were automatically charged to a specific card. We see Luai holding his phone, the faint glow of the screen illuminating his pale, worried face. He repeated it again, almost to himself. He simply didn't have any money. In the past, the water and electricity bills were always handled automatically by the card in Min's name. His sister scoffed, asking if he was joking, since Min was just a shut-in who played video games all day. She couldn't fathom where he would even get 1,200 pesos to cover the utilities. She accused Luai of secretly transferring his own salary to Min behind their backs. He denied it instantly, wondering where on earth he would find any extra money to give away. His entire salary, as it turned out, was already being swallowed up just to pay the minimum on her credit cards. And here we learn the truth. For the last 3 years, Min had actually been the one covering every household expense. She remained unimpressed, asking what it mattered if he had paid for the water and light. She repeated the question over and over, as if the sheer repetition would make her point valid. She told him that since Min was finally gone, it was now Luai's turn to step up and pay. He pleaded with her to hurry, confessing that he truly didn't have a single cent left to his name. To make matters worse, he had a car payment due the very next day. She didn't care in the slightest, making it very clear that she had no intention of paying a thing. Her brother Xiaogan was arriving tomorrow, and she asked if he really intended to let him walk into a dark house. She told him flatly that he would just have to find a way to get the money himself. Meanwhile, we see Min sitting on a spacious leather sofa, calmly lifting a fine porcelain cup. He took a sip of freshly ground coffee while watching the live security feed of his old living room on a tablet. They had no money for the lights, it seemed, yet plenty of resources to support a lazy lifestyle. After playing the millionaire for 3 years, he was curious to see how Luai would get out of this one. The next morning, the dazzling sunlight streamed into the messy, cluttered living room. Lin Xiaojing walked in casually, dragging his suitcase behind him before flopping onto the sofa. He immediately complained to his sister, asking why they hadn't even turned on the air conditioning in this dump. He claimed he was roasting, and then asked where his brother-in-law had disappeared to. His sister handed him some water, telling him not to worry about where Luai had gone. She explained that his brother-in-law had gone out to beg for a loan just to get the power turned back on. She told him to simply ignore that useless man, which was a bit harsh, all things considered. She then invited him to follow her, so she could show him to his brand new room. Later, Luai returned, explaining he had barely managed to borrow 500 pesos from a colleague for the electricity. He was shocked to see Xiaojing there, and asked what on earth he was doing in the house. When he asked if the boy was staying for a few days, his sister reminded him that the ungrateful Min was finally gone. To her, it was perfect timing to give the vacant room to her own brother. Luai pointed out that they could barely afford to eat, let alone let someone else move in. He asked who was going to pay for the extra expenses, which offended Xiaojing immediately. The young man snapped back, claiming it was his absolute right to stay in his sister's home. She snapped at Luai, asking if her brother wasn't allowed to stay as long as he wanted. She then ordered him to go cook, while Xiaojiang, with a look of pure disgust, pushed open the door to the empty room. Inside, we see there was absolutely nothing but a bare, lonely bed frame. With a look of utter annoyance, the young man gave the door frame a brutal kick. He complained that there wasn't even a computer in this filthy little dump of a room. He asked what he was supposed to do, reminding his sister she'd said that Manga had plenty of expensive equipment. She led him over, but noted that the small room next door was always kept firmly under lock and key. She was certain he had left a mountain of his junk hidden away inside there. Xiaojiang peered in and noticed several large boxes sitting in the shadows. To his eyes, they looked exactly like limited edition collectible figures. He chuckled to himself, realizing that these things could be worth a small fortune. He had seen them online before, though Luai immediately tried to intervene with a firm no. Luai warned them that the spare equipment Min kept locked away was off limits. He insisted it was worth tens of thousands and that they absolutely could not touch it. The sister just laughed, mocking the idea of it being worth tens of thousands. She asked if he really believed that loser had the money to buy anything so expensive. She told Xiaojiang to ignore him, convinced the items were just cheap knockoffs anyway. The boy just grunted, indifferent to whether the items were authentic or not. His only plan was to open them up and sell them to make some quick cash. There was a sharp metallic click, and the rusty lock fell directly to the floor. Lin Xiaojiang raised his foot and delivered a brutal kick to the wooden door. The door swung wide open, yielding to his aggression. As it gave way, it kicked up a thick cloud of dust that was enough to make anyone cough. He strolled inside with a smug air, acting as if he were the rightful owner of the place. He marveled at the sight, noting that this guy had certainly been hiding some good stuff. He called out to his sister to look at the boxes, pointing out that they hadn't even been opened yet. Everything was labeled in a foreign language, which, to him, was a clear sign of high quality. Luai tried to intervene again, telling Xiaojiang that he absolutely shouldn't touch any of it. He insisted they couldn't touch them, as these were Min's professional work tools. He warned that if they broke anything, even selling everything they owned wouldn't be enough. He asked what kind of tools they could possibly have that would ever cover the cost of such damage. The sister told him to get out of the way and to stop making such a fool of himself. She scoffed, calling Min a freeloading loser who didn't even have a real job. She asked rhetorically what kind of work tools a man like that could possibly possess. Luai tried to explain, telling her she simply didn't understand the situation. He mentioned that Min was involved in some kind of professional design work, or something similar. He recalled hearing him say that any piece of his equipment cost tens of thousands. She laughed at the idea of tens of thousands, asking Luai if he'd been brainwashed. She pointed out that the man didn't even want to pay the $1,200 for the utilities. Even when buying a miserable green onion, she claimed he wanted to split the cost right down the middle. She asked him if he honestly believed a man like that could afford something worth tens of thousands. She was certain he'd found it in the trash, secondhand junk with a foreign label slapped on just to show off. She sighed, telling her brother-in-law that he really was far too much of a coward. Xiaojiang declared that since his sister had given the order, he was the one in charge of the house now. We see Min at his large, polished wooden desk, holding his digital stylus with steady precision. He was completely focused, his hand moving across the screen with practiced ease. Before him lay the complex sketch of an S-class commission, a high-stakes project, to say the least. Suddenly, his cell phone began to vibrate with an insistent, continuous rhythm. He noted how fast they were moving, amused that they couldn't even wait a few more days. He had actually planned to let them enjoy themselves for a little while longer. But if they were in such a hurry to dig their own graves, he decided he would gladly oblige them. Meanwhile, with his hands covered in grease, Xiaojiang roughly tore the gray cover off the equipment. The silver cover had been protecting a massive 27-inch graphics tablet left in the house. Ignoring its high-end quality, he grabbed the screen by the edges with zero care. As if he were dragging a piece of rotting wood, he pulled it forcefully to the very edge of the table. The cables at the back stretched tight, reaching a point where they were nearly ready to snap. He wondered aloud what it even was, complaining that he couldn't even find a power button. To him, this black and white TV looked incredibly cheap and useless. He even claimed the monitors at the local internet cafe were much better than this. He told them to move it out of the way, worried it might somehow interfere with the cooking pot. "What do you think you're doing?" Lumen cried out, realizing that everything was now completely ruined. His wife snapped back, asking if he was sick or just crazy for worrying about a filthy screen over her brother's safety. She reminded him that the man owed them a fortune in back rent anyway. In her mind, there was absolutely nothing wrong with using his junk to keep the table from getting stained. She laughed, telling him to simply consider it a partial payment toward his massive debt. She told Xiaojiang to ignore her husband, whom she mockingly referred to as a good client. She insisted he keep eating, dismissing the screen as a piece of garbage that wasn't even touch-sensitive. After noisily slurping his last noodle, Xiaojiang tossed the greasy bowl directly onto the expensive tablet. He wiped his hands on his pants, and suddenly, his eyes landed on a custom-made, climate-controlled display case in the corner. He remarked to his sister that those little plastic figures actually looked quite well made. We see him admiring the lights and the packaging, which, to be honest, looked far more than just decent. He decided right then and there to take them out just to play with them for a while. He grumbled, wondering why the joints on the figure were so stiff and difficult to move. It wouldn't budge at all, leading him to conclude that the whole thing was just a cheap piece of junk. It snapped the moment he touched it, and he claimed even the cheap toys from Pinduoduo were more durable than this. Lumen watched in horror, thinking they were practically begging for their own demise at this point. His wife told him to shut up and stop his whining immediately. She dismissed them as mere plastic toys for otakus, seeing them as nothing more than another payment on the debt. She shrugged it off, deciding that if they were broken, then that was simply that. She even claimed that when the ungrateful man returned, she'd just buy him 10 more from the flea market to replace them. "Let's go, Xiaojiang," she said, deciding it was time for her brother to get some new clothes. She complained that the place smelled of poverty while he sat in silence, watching their arrogant silhouettes depart through his phone screen. And there was Lumen, still collapsed on the floor and trembling with visible fear. The entire process of destruction had been recorded perfectly, without losing a single second of the evidence. He scoffed at her mention of 99 pesos with free shipping. She clearly had no idea what she had done. He wondered if she would still be laughing quite so loudly once the court summons finally arrived. He contacted his lawyer, sending over the video along with all the original purchase receipts. The total value of the destroyed items came to 85,000. He requested a formal damage assessment and told the lawyer to prepare the lawsuit immediately. He paused, a cold and calculated look shining in his eyes as he considered his next move. With extreme coldness, he moved past his coffee, focused entirely on the legal battle ahead. He thanked Lawyer Lin for his work, knowing the wheels of justice were finally turning. He made it clear that he would not accept any form of settlement or conciliation. They were going to proceed with the full rigor of the law, leaving no room for mercy. Meanwhile, she was admiring a new $28,000 motto bag from this season's collection. It was absurd, really. She couldn't pay $1,200 for utilities, yet she had the nerve to take out a high-interest $50,000 loan. We see Lin Xiaoban posing like a madwoman in front of the full-length mirror in her living room. She kept changing her posture, desperate to show off the new luxury bag hanging from her shoulder. The sound of her phone's camera shutter didn't stop for a moment as she snapped photo after photo. As for Xiaojiang, he was sprawled out lazily on the sofa, completely indifferent to the storm they had just invited. The floor was completely covered in snack wrappers and trash. Meanwhile, Luai was curled into a ball in the corner armchair, clutching his head in utter desperation. "Xiaogang, what do you think of my bag?" she asked, preening for her brother. 28,000. It's the very latest model of the season. She imagined that at tomorrow's tea, with Mrs. Wang and her friends, she would be the envy of everyone there. To her, this was what it meant to have the confidence of a modern, independent woman, or so she told herself. "You're incredible, sister," Xiaogang replied. "Much better than my brother-in-law." He mocked how the man couldn't even pay for electricity, relying on her to maintain their appearances. Luai looked up, asking where on earth she had found 28,000 for a mere handbag. He reminded them that next week they had to pay nearly 20,000 for his brother-in-law's expenses. Between the car and the house, he didn't even have 200 pesos left on his card. He asked with growing dread if she had used the credit card again. "What credit card?" she snapped. "That piece of junk card of yours reached its limit a long time ago." He wondered then how she had done it, asking if she had taken out another online loan. "Xiaogang, we are already up to our necks in debt," he pleaded. They simply didn't have the money to plug all the financial holes they were digging. He begged her to take the bag back immediately and get a refund. She looked at him in disbelief. Return it? The very idea was offensive to her. She called him useless, pointing out that since he couldn't earn money, he had no right to tell her how to spend it. "Listen to me carefully, Luai," she said. "I got this bag my own way. It's money I borrowed myself," she declared. "It has absolutely nothing to do with you." She claimed that once she closed some deals with important clients in her socialite chat tomorrow, this misery would be a thing of the past. Luai could only stare at her. "You're insane. Did you really take out an online loan?" He knew those interest rates would eat them alive, but Xiaogang just shrugged, asking why his brother-in-law was making such a scene. To him, there was nothing wrong with his sister borrowing a little bit of money. He argued it was a legal platform, suggesting that when Luai got paid next month, he could just pay her back and be done with it. He mocked Luai, calling him a grown man who was somehow still incredibly stingy. "How embarrassing," she added. "Even Xiaogang is more sensible than you are." She told him to stop making that funeral face, claiming his gloom was bringing her bad luck. We move now to the following day, where the atmosphere in the boardroom was incredibly tense. The supervisor stood at the front, pounding on the whiteboard while delivering a harsh lecture. We see Luai sitting in a corner with massive dark circles under his eyes, biting his nails like a bundle of raw nerves. His forehead was covered in a thin layer of cold sweat, and who could blame him, really? He was already 3 days late on the car payment, and the pressure was becoming unbearable. Deep down, he felt this was no longer a life worth living, just as a notification appeared regarding his wife Lin Xiaoban's 50,000 peso debt. Terrified of what might happen next, Luai nervously answered the incoming call. He covered his mouth and ducked down, but a shrill robotic voice blasted from the phone, instantly drowning out the supervisor. Every single one of his colleagues turned in unison to fix their gaze directly on him. The recording announced that the 50,000 peso loan taken by his spouse, Lin Xiaoban, was now seriously overdue. The voice demanded he settle the debt immediately, or they would begin contacting his emergency references and his place of employment. Hello? You must have the wrong number, he stammered immediately. What is this? I don't know her. The supervisor's voice cut through the air like a knife. Luai, what on earth are you doing? Are you seriously taking collection calls in the middle of a board meeting? He demanded to know how many people Luai owed money to, while Luai could only mutter, I'm sorry, supervisor. I'm hanging up now. I'll fix it immediately, he promised, though we can see he was far from having a solution. Meanwhile, leaning back in a wide, comfortable gaming chair, a mysterious figure watched the bank's text message appear on his screen with cold indifference. Finally, he thought to himself, let the show begin. The detective-like attitude of those involved was starting to crumble, leaving behind a bitter taste of past mistakes. There were things he didn't know yet. He hesitated for a moment, observing the arguments presented by Patricia Smith. It was a chaotic mess of symbols and street signs, a language of debt that was becoming increasingly difficult to read. The pressure was mounting, reaching a breaking point that no one could ignore. Back on the dusty floor of his reality, Luai collapsed onto the sofa, clutching his hair in absolute desperation. Luai, you have to give me an explanation this very day, his wife demanded, showing no mercy. She complained that the collection calls had even reached the reception desk at her office. Mrs. Wong and the others had been mocking her in their group chat all day long, which, for her, was the ultimate tragedy. Why on earth won't you help me pay off these 50,000 yuan, she snapped, ignoring his obvious distress. Xiao Wang tried to intervene, telling her to lower her voice and have some restraint. My son doesn't look well today, he noted. Don't pressure him. Let me handle this. But she wouldn't listen, arguing that as his wife, she expected more from an executive who supposedly earned tens of thousands a month. She couldn't believe he couldn't even produce 50,000 yuan to help her settle her online loan. Luai, did you secretly give all that money to that good-for-nothing brother of yours? She demanded. Pay? With what exactly do you want me to pay? He shot back, his voice trembling. Do you even realize that the car payment is overdue as well? She scoffed, convinced he was lying. Don't play poor with me. You just don't want to spend a cent on your wife. Whether you borrow it or take out a loan, you'll fill that hole today, or I'm filing for divorce. Luai looked at her as if seeing her for the first time. An executive? Tens of thousands. He began to laugh, a hollow, bitter sound that filled the room. Open your eyes and look closely. I am nothing more than a low-level supervisor. My monthly salary is only 6,000 yuan, he confessed, finally letting the truth out. And every bit of those 6,000 goes toward paying the minimum on the credit cards you maxed out. You're lying, she stammered, her confidence wavering. That's simply impossible. Then what about the household expenses for the last 3 years? She asked, searching for an out. And the mortgage? And all those designer bags worth thousands that you bought for me? Xiao Wang finally spoke up, his voice heavy with regret. Son, what is happening? It was all Lumin's money. He explained that the mortgage, the luxury bags, and even the utilities were paid by Lumin's earnings as an artist. He isn't some useless pauper, the old man added, looking at his daughter-in-law. He was the real provider here, and it was your insistence on splitting expenses that drove our gold mine away. She could only whisper, what did you say, as the reality of her situation began to sink in. The dull thud of her handbag hitting the floor was the only sound in the suddenly silent living room. We see her face turn as pale as a sheet of paper, a moment of realization that came far too late. Luai's mother came rushing out of the hallway, nearly tripping over her own feet in her haste. Her face was a mask of pure panic as she cried out, asking her son what he had just said. She couldn't believe that the mortgage for the last 3 years had been paid entirely by his brother. Where could he have possibly gotten that much money? Apparently, he earns hundreds of thousands for a single original drawing. Luai explained that everything they had eaten, drunk, and used for 3 years came from the crumbs his brother had left over. We see them realize they chased away their own gold mine. If he really had that much, why didn't he say so sooner? She convinced herself he had done it on purpose just to make a fool out of her. She kept repeating the same question in a daze, insisting that Luai must be lying to them about the whole situation. Lying? He told her to look at the receipts if she didn't believe him. Next month's mortgage payment alone is 12,000 yuan, a staggering amount for them now. And then there was her online loan of 50,000 yuan that still needed to be settled. He asked her how she planned to pay for any of it on her meager salary of 4,000 yuan. She could only gasp in shock, realizing the gravity of the disaster they had invited upon themselves. She wailed about her sins, lamenting that they had good fortune right in their home and chose to kick it out instead. She turned on Xiao Wang, blaming his constant insistence on splitting expenses for their current misery. And here we see the result. They are left with nothing but ruins and regret. Xiao Wang snapped back, telling her not to start making demands or complaints now. He reminded her that when they kicked him out, she was the one who insulted him more than anyone else. Now that they see he has money, they suddenly want to cling to him again, which is quite ironic, really. Refusing to argue any further, he decided he had to call Lumin immediately. She insisted that she was his real mother and that he simply couldn't abandon her like this. His brother was between a rock and a hard place, and she wondered how he could just watch him suffer. Finally, she reacted, though it was much slower than anyone would have expected. She called him, crying out for her good son Mingxi, relieved that he had finally answered the phone. She claimed she missed him to death and asked if he was eating well all by himself out there. When she asked if he had enough money, Minxie told her to just say what she wanted directly. He made it clear that if she was calling for the 15,000 in alimony, he wouldn't pay it. She acted hurt, asking how he could possibly hold such a grudge against his own mother. She blamed everything on his sister-in-law, calling her foolish and claiming she was the one who insisted on it. She kept repeating that she was deceived too, insisting that it was all the fault of that senseless woman. But they were family, she argued, and blood is always thicker than water. Family is family, he reminded her, but hadn't she said she would never support a parasite like him? She claimed she only said that because she was angry, asking what mother could truly hate her son. Then she got to the point. Minxie, his brother, was in a massive amount of trouble. He had stopped paying the mortgage, and the debt collectors were calling them every single day. Since he was so successful now, she noted that a single drawing of his was worth hundreds of thousands. She begged him to bring some money quickly to pay off his brother's mortgage for them. Hundreds of thousands. So Luai, Quan had finally confessed everything to them. Unfortunately for them, it was far too late, and he didn't care if his brother jumped off a building. After all, the deeds to the house were in his brother's name, not his. Why on earth should I be the one to pay, Lumine? He asked, his voice cold and steady. How can you be so heartless? She shrieked. He is your own flesh and blood. She demanded to know if he was really going to stand by with his arms crossed while his brother jumped. Since he was making so much money now, she couldn't see the harm in helping his family just a little. She even threatened to report him to the authorities for abandoning an elderly person, a bold move, to be sure. He told her to go ahead and sue, but suggested she bring the records of how they spent his money for 3 years. He wanted her to show everyone those accounts, so the world could see exactly who was bleeding whom dry. Minxie, I am begging you as your mother, all right? She pleaded, her tone shifting to desperation. She implored him to please just pay it, repeating the request over and over. I'm begging you as your mother, please, she cried out again, hoping to find a crack in his resolve. After she repeated her plea once more, Minxie finally asked if she hadn't previously called him a parasite. Where exactly is a parasite supposed to get that kind of money? He asked with biting irony. A sharp, mocking dial tone was the only answer she received from the phone. And here we see Lu's mother collapse onto the floor, looking as though her very soul had been snatched away. It was over. This time, everything was truly and completely finished. Minxie had even blocked her number, leaving her to wonder who would possibly pay the mortgage now. The entire family would have to face the debt, or they would all end up sleeping on the streets. What's the use in crying? Someone muttered, still thinking of him as just another Lu. They reminded themselves that Min still carried the Lu blood in his veins, after all. They weren't about to let him get rich and walk away as if nothing had happened. Impossible, she muttered. Xiaoguan, can you think of anything else? Doesn't he have a studio? Tomorrow morning, I'm going to his office to make a scene. She reminded herself that she was his sister-in-law, and the eldest sister-in-law is like a second mother. She wanted to see if he would actually dare to kick her out, especially with a business to protect. She believed her brother-in-law held great power, but if he didn't care about his reputation, she certainly wouldn't either. I'm going to force him to meekly pay off the mortgage and all my loans, she declared. Open the door, I'm going up, she snapped at the guard the next morning. Good morning, ma'am. Excuse me, do you have an appointment? This is a private office area, the guard replied calmly. He explained that visitor registration and owner confirmation were required before anyone could enter. What do you mean I need an appointment to see my own brother-in-law? She demanded, offended. Are you blind or what? Lamine, the one who has the studio right up here. I am his sister-in-law. Open this door for me right this second, she ordered. She asked him if he was prepared to take responsibility if he ruined their family reunion. I'm sorry, ma'am, but even family members need authorization from Mr. Lu in person. The guard politely suggested that she call him first to confirm her visit. Well, my phone battery just died, she lied, thinking quickly on her feet. She claimed he had been in a bad mood lately, adding that he knew how children could be. I came today specifically to forgive him for his little tantrum, she said with a straight face. She insisted that as the sister-in-law who took him in, she was practically his mother. Do you understand? Now let me go up this instant, she commanded, losing her patience. I'm going to tell him to his face so that everyone can judge him, she declared. Judge what? I, his sister-in-law, cared for him for 3 years with such great sacrifice. And now that he's made a little money, it's gone to his head and he won't even come home. I came here today to teach him how to be a decent person, she continued. A sister-in-law is like a mother, we are told, though this particular vampire dared to speak of family bonds. To be perfectly honest, having skin that thick is a rare talent indeed. Manager Zong, someone is causing trouble in the lobby, the report came through. It is severely affecting my work environment, Lumine replied from his office. I don't know her. Proceed with the highest level of security protocol. Move. Do you think I'm not capable of making Lumine fire you? She threatened the guard. Ma'am, Mr. Lu says he does not know you, the guard stated firmly. Please, leave the premises immediately. Lin Xiaoban's eyes widened, filled with a mixture of deep embarrassment and growing fury. She reached out with her perfectly manicured hand and shoved the burly guard standing in her way. But the guard, standing like a solid wall, did not move so much as an inch. I am his sister-in-law. I am like his second mother, she screamed. And who do you people think you are to try and stop me? Get out of my way. Ma'am, please, behave yourself, the guard countered. He reminded her once more that this was a private office area. Without the owner's explicit authorization, absolutely no one was permitted to enter. Authorization? I've come to see my own brother-in-law, she snapped back. What authorization could I possibly need? The rent for this very building was paid for with our family's own money. You're just a doorman. Do you really think I can't have Lu Min fire you right now? Ma'am, please, stop shouting, the guard requested calmly. You are severely disrupting the work of the other companies in this building. Disrupting? I came here today to demand justice, she cried out. I am an independent, modern woman who sacrificed 3 years to take care of his home. And now that he's doing well, he just kicks us to the curb and forgets his entire family. He won't even pay the mortgage on the house anymore. The onlookers whispered, wondering where one sees such a thing, a woman dressed in luxury brands, acting so irrationally while claiming to be an independent woman. To be honest, coming to beg a brother-in-law for mortgage money is a strange way to show independence. What are you all staring at? She barked at the growing crowd. Have you never seen someone putting a family member in their place before? Lu Min, you coward. Come down here this instant. Oh, so you won't let me go up? Fine. I'll stay right here. Let's see if Lu Min actually dares to come out or not. Meanwhile, sitting in his spacious armchair, Lu Min watched the secondary monitor with a cold gaze. He observed Lin Xiaoban as she screamed and made a scene in the lobby like a common clown. An independent woman? More like independent by bleeding me dry, he thought to himself. Suddenly, a sharp, screeching sound of static erupted from the lobby speakers. Lu Min's voice then echoed clearly through the entire hall, addressing the security department. If this young lady continues to disturb the peace, call the authorities immediately. Lu Min, you finally dare to show your face, she screamed at the ceiling. Tell them to let me through right now. Contact my personal lawyer. For serious defamation and disturbing public order, send her a legal notice at once. Every cent of the economic losses caused by this disruption will be charged to her account. Lu Min, you're ungrateful. You're a traitor, she continued to howl. You actually dare to sue me? I am your sister-in-law. She kept repeating her disbelief as the guards approached, insisting the courts don't interfere in family matters. Let go of me. What are you doing? You're hurting me. This is abuse. Help, she cried, though no one moved to assist her. Hey, watch out. Get away from my bag. My limited edition bag fell to the ground. Lu Min, you'll pay for this. This isn't over, she vowed, just as the heavy glass doors swung open. The security guard stepped outside and released his grip on her immediately. Without his support, Lin Xiaoban's legs suddenly seemed to give way beneath her. She tumbled to the ground in the most dramatic and clumsy way possible. And there we leave her, sitting defeated on the burning hot steps of the entrance. Ow, my foot. You bunch of arrogant guards. Look what you've done. What are you all staring at? If you don't stop right now, you'll be sorry. Lu Min, how do you actually dare to treat me this way? Well, as soon as I get home, I'll make sure Lu I never speaks to you again. With trembling hands, Lin Xiaoban opened her WeChat messages. The cold light of the screen reflected off her pale, panicked face. Her inbox was overflowing with screenshots and angry demands from colleagues and relatives alike. No, this simply cannot be happening. It's impossible. How did they dare to leak my entire contact list like this? The message was clear. Mrs. Lin, if you don't settle the $50,000 by 3 p.m., the next mass message to your family will be the video of you holding your ID to request the loan. How dare they? This is a complete invasion of my privacy. My husband is a high-ranking executive at a major corporation. Believe it or not, I'll have a lawyer sue you until you're completely bankrupt. Your husband? You can't even pay the $6,000 minimum on your credit card, yet you still put on airs with us? Come on, rich lady, just get the money together once and for all. Otherwise, we'll be heading to your office this afternoon to hang up a very public banner. Don't go to my office. I'm getting it together, I swear, I really am. Is it just 50,000? Do you honestly think I'm lacking that kind of money? Stop the nonsense. If we don't see the money by 3, you'll have to face the consequences. On the wide, solid wood desk, the screen of Lu Min's cell phone suddenly lit up. A message from an unknown number appeared, confirming that the contact list had already been leaked. Well, we have to admit, the efficiency of these debt collectors is remarkably high. They actually dared to leak it. It seems her bubble of vanity is finally about to burst. Mr. Lu, your sister-in-law's contact list was exposed due to an online loan. Even the emergency contact number you provided has already received the message. Do you need us to send a lawyer's letter to distance ourselves from the matter? There is no need for that. Simply blocking them will be more than enough. Right now, not even they can save themselves from what is coming. We shall sit back and enjoy the show as Lu I's world continues to sink completely. Understood. Regarding the lawsuit for the $80,000 in equipment damages, I have already filed it with the court. They will receive the summons very soon. Good work, Lawyer Lin. Please proceed exactly as we planned. Not a single penny less. Meanwhile, Lin Xiaoban feels like she is drowning. Her phone was vibrating frantically, sounding very much like a final summons. She unlocked the screen with clumsy fingers as messages flooded the company group chat. Well, Miss Lin, who always brags about Starbucks and luxury spas, can't pay 50,000? Even I was called by the debt collectors because of her. Please, let me explain. Those are nothing but fraudulent messages. She told them she had never requested an online loan. It was a lie, of course. She insisted it must be someone who was jealous of her and simply wanted to ruin her reputation. The others weren't buying it, pointing out that the scammers even sent the video of her holding her ID to get the loan. So, it turns out that $28,000 bag was bought with money from loan sharks? And here we see the truth behind the woman who always put on such grand airs. She was willing to do absolutely anything just to maintain appearances. She told them all to shut up, desperately claiming that the video had been edited. "My husband has more than enough money," she shouted, trying to convince herself as much as them. "How could you even imagine that I would ever need to ask for a loan? You're all just jealous because I'm doing so much better than you," she spat back. But the act was over, and her colleagues told Lindsay Oven to stop playing the tough girl. The debt collectors had been blowing up the phones at both the reception desk and the sales department. This chaos had gravely affected the normal day-to-day operations of the entire company. "Boss, please, you have to listen to me," she pleaded as her superior approached. "I'll have the full amount by this afternoon. Don't believe a single word those people say." "There is no need to wait until the afternoon," the boss replied coldly. "Due to your serious personal debt issues damaging the company's reputation, you are officially fired. By this afternoon, the finance department will have your things packed and ready to go. And don't you even think about telling anyone you ever worked for this firm again." What a shameful display. Lindsay Oven collapsed right there in the middle of the busy street. The phone in her hand continued to vibrate incessantly, sounding very much like a final death sentence. Desperate, she slid her finger across the screen to answer, her fingertips trembling uncontrollably. She managed a weak hello, calling out for her husband. "Lindsay Oven, where the hell are you?" he shouted from the other end. "The debt collectors are right here at the front door. Where on earth have you been? They're saying that if we don't pay up right now, they're going to take the house away." "And what about you?" she snapped back. "Why are you yelling at me? I just got fired." She told him it was all his fault for not having the money to help her with those online loans. "You've made a complete fool of me," he retorted, "and now you're saying you were fired? And who exactly is going to pay off those $50,000 now? Where are we supposed to find the money for next month's mortgage? The entire family is going to end up sleeping on the street at this rate." "How should I know?" she cried out. "You're the man of the house. Go find your father and find a solution. Didn't you say Lumine was making money with his drawings? Well, go and ask him for it. Ask him." He scoffed at the very idea. The boy had gone so far as to block his own mother's phone number. But then he paused, thinking about the drawings. Yes, of course, the drawings. "Drawings?" she asked in disbelief, wondering if that junk was actually worth any real money. Even though he moved out, there is still a backup computer in Trevejos's old room. He was certain there would be unfinished work or unsubmitted files left on that machine. Commercial illustrations, he realized, any one of which could be sold for over $100,000. Brother-in-law, the debt collectors who were waiting outside just left. "What should we do? Maybe I should just head back to the village and hide out for a while." "Hide? You dragged your sister into this mess, broke the house equipment, and now you want to run away. Get over here and help me." "Help you with what?" he asked, clearly confused. "I don't have a single cent to help pay off your debts," the man snapped back. "I don't want your money. Minxie's backup computer is still in Trevejos's old room. If we can just get the sketches off that machine and sell them, we'll be saved. More than $100,000? Well, if we sell them, you have to give me a cut for my travel expenses." We returned to Lumine, who sat at his solid wood desk, coldly watching the high-definition security footage on his monitor. Luai burst into Trevejos's room like a rabid dog, searching for anything of value. And so, we see that it has finally come to this. They were actually daring enough to try and steal trade secrets. "Mr. Liu, the lawsuit for the $80,000 in equipment damages has already been delivered," the lawyer informed him. "Furthermore, you mentioned they might try something with your backup computer." Yes, on that machine, he had intentionally left several half-finished sketches that he had already discarded. It was just enough to set a perfect trap for them. Understood. The moment he tries to transfer those commercial files, the massive penalty for breaching the confidentiality agreement will trigger. It would be more than enough to ensure they suffered the full consequences of their greed. "Thank you for your hard work, Lawyer Lin," Lumine replied calmly. "The second he dares to take that data, sue him directly for the theft of trade secrets. We will ensure he faces a claim for millions in compensation," the lawyer added with professional coldness. Meanwhile, Luai burst into Trevejos's dusty old room, driven by a desperate kind of greed. With a rough shove, he pushed aside the graphic tablet on the desk, the one Lin Xiaojiang had already ruined. He began searching frantically beneath the monitor, his eyes darting back to the tablet on the desk. "Hurry up, brother-in-law," the other man urged. "If that guy comes back, we are absolutely finished." "Shut up and just help me find the CPU," Luai snapped, his patience wearing thin. "Where is the CPU, brother-in-law? I don't see it anywhere." "Is it that black box with the colored lights under the desk?" he asked, pointing toward the floor. "Yes, that's the one. Quick, help me pull it out of there. This is our $100,000 lifeline," or so they foolishly told themselves. Luai reached down and abruptly disconnected the backup computer from its cables. He yanked the power supply cord straight out of the machine. The plug fell and dragged across the dust-covered floor as they moved. In the corner of a nearby shelf, a tiny surveillance microcamera blinked, capturing every single movement. Immediately after, 3 perfectly rhythmic knocks echoed through the quiet apartment. "Who is it? Who's there? Brother-in-law, do you think the debt collectors are back already? Let's just pretend we didn't hear anything. Debt collectors usually pound on the door, after all. Those knocks are strange. You'd better hide the CPU in the cabinet just in case." I'll go check, Luai whispered, opening the security door just a tiny crack to peer outside. There stood Lumin, wearing an impeccable shirt and a completely expressionless face, with his lawyer following close behind. There stood Lumin, looking sharp in his suit and tie, accompanied by Dona Wong from the neighborhood committee, who wore a grin from ear to ear. Minchi, why are you back? Luai stammered, his voice trembling as he realized the situation. Were you worried I might interrupt you while you were finishing off the rest of my things? Lumin asked coldly. Oh, Minchi, you finally show your face. Dona Wong chimed in with that meddling tone we all know too well. She claimed his brother-in-law had been so worried these past few days that he'd even started growing gray hairs. And you, brother, the brother of your sister-in-law, she continued, stumbling over the family tree. Listen to this old woman, she urged them, reminding them that they were, after all, family. Blood is thicker than water, she said, leaning on that tired old cliché to smooth things over. He only broke a few little plastic toys and a piece of black glass, didn't he? She asked dismissively. Lumin asked if she would act like it was nothing if someone destroyed thousands of pesos worth of her own appliances. She laughed it off, telling him not to talk nonsense about things costing thousands of pesos. How could those little figurines possibly be worth that much? She wondered aloud with genuine disbelief. She reminded him that his brother-in-law was going through a very difficult time right now. You know that better than anyone, she said, suggesting he view the destruction as a way of helping the family. Lumin turned to his lawyer and asked him to show her exactly what those plastic toys were actually worth. Help. He wondered how destroying his property could possibly be considered helping anyone. Understood, sir, the lawyer replied, turning his attention toward Mr. Luai. And to Mr. Lin Xiaojiang, he added, noting that according to a professional agency's evaluation, the digital screen, the limited edition, discontinued figurine, and the temperature-controlled cabinet are currently valued at a staggering 52,000 yuan. The total amount of damages, he continued, adds up to a grand total of 82,000 yuan. Lin Xiaojiang let out a sharp laugh, mocking the figure of 82,000 as if it were a joke. He asked Lumin if he had finally lost his mind from being so poor. He accused him of hiring an actor, putting him in a suit, and bringing fake invoices to pull a scam. Did he think he was born yesterday? He wouldn't even want that junk for 10 pesos with free shipping. And yet, here he was, claiming they were worth 82,000 yuan. He challenged Lumin, asking him what exactly he thought he was going to do about it. Luai tried to intervene, telling Xiaojiang to shut up before turning his desperate gaze toward Lumin. He asked what he was doing and if he really intended to take things this far. Lumin replied calmly that he was simply following the legal process for a formal claim. Since they believed the invoices were fake, he suggested they save their explanations for the authorities. Lin Xiaojiang kept a mocking smile, hands on his hips and shaking his leg with pure arrogance, wondering what was happening. The lawyer, unmoved by the display, walked directly toward him with the official document in hand. He informed Mr. Lin Xiaojiang that since he refused to negotiate, they had formally filed a civil lawsuit. It was a copy, but the reality of it hit hard. He couldn't believe Lumin actually dared to do it. Lin Xiaojiang stared intensely at the bright, official red seal on the paper. Suddenly, his bravado vanished and his legs began to feel weak. He stumbled backward until his back hit the dusty wall with a heavy thud. He asked, his voice trembling, if they were seriously suing him over a few filthy plastic toys. The lawyer simply noted that everything was there, written clearly in black and white. And with all the evidence, the lawyer added, noting that since he was a temporary resident on Lui's property and brought in by Lin Xiaojiang, if he were to refuse or find himself simply unable to pay the full compensation, given their status as de facto tenants and as legal protectors, Mr. Lui and Mrs. Lin Xiaojiang would have to assume joint responsibility for those 82,000 yuan. Joint responsibility? Mingzi asked, wondering what on earth he had to do with any of this. He reminded her that the boy was her sister-in-law's brother, not his. He insisted that whoever caused the mess should pay for it, and they should collect from him. The neighbor, seeing things had reached the courts, decided she wanted no part of it. Besides, she claimed she had soup on the stove that couldn't be left alone. She told them to settle their family problems themselves and made a quick exit. Lumin noted that even the neighborhood committee didn't want to get involved in their mess. He gave them 3 days. They could pay him then, or he would see them in court. We see the morning sunlight filtering into the messy rented apartment the next day. Lin Xiaoban was wandering around in a pair of wrinkled pajamas. With a wide yawn, she pushed open the door to the other bedroom. She called out to Xiaojiang, asking if he was seriously still sleeping at this hour. She told him to get up, planning to take him away to hide from the debt collectors. She kept calling his name, but a voice told her to stop shouting because he was gone. Apparently, at midnight the night before, he had packed his things and bolted. He was gone, leaving her to wonder where he could have possibly run off to. She couldn't believe it, wondering how her own brother could possibly leave her there all alone. Louis told her to open her eyes and look around. The boy had clearly vanished. Now, he reminded her, they were the ones stuck with this 82,000 yuan debt. And that was without even mentioning her personal loans, which were piling up. Between that and the mortgage, he asked if she was trying to drive him completely insane. She insisted it wasn't possible and decided to call him right that second. She told herself he had surely just stepped out to buy some breakfast. He blocked you, didn't he? Louis mocked her, pointing out the true nature of the brother she defended so much. Because of him, she had acted like the queen of the house and done whatever she pleased. And yet, he had sold her out for 80,000 yuan without a second thought. We see Lumin leaning back in a massive leather swivel chair, a cup of black coffee in hand. On his secondary screen, the security footage from the apartment clearly showed the couple's growing desperation. It was just as he thought. Family ties mean very little when there is money on the line. His assistant informed him that everything had played out exactly as he predicted. The night before, Lin Xiaojing had bought a cheap seat on a train to return to his village immediately. Furthermore, the notice for joint liability had now officially gone into effect. Lumin congratulated him, telling him not to take his eyes off them for a single moment. Louis was already between a rock and a hard place, exactly where Lumin wanted him. He was certain it would only take a day or two before the man did something truly desperate. The assistant understood. As soon as Louis touched the data on his backup machine, their plan would move forward. Louis' cell phone vibrated incessantly, sounding for all the world like a debt collector demanding his very life. All sorts of collection numbers were flashing across the screen in a relentless, rhythmic blink. Utterly fed up, he slammed the phone down onto the sofa with all the frustration he could muster. 80,000, 50,000. The numbers were starting to lose all meaning. 12,000 more. He wondered where on earth he was supposed to find that kind of money. It was over. In his mind, everything he had built had finally come to an end. He had lost his bag, he had lost his job, and now, it seemed, he was losing his mind. But then, a thought occurred to him. It wasn't over yet, as there was still one way out. He told himself that if they could just get their hands on the cash, they could still recover. With his eyes bloodshot, Louis looked exactly like a gambler who had just lost his final hand. He lunged toward the backup computer in the corner and, with trembling fingers, pressed the power button. The tower's fan immediately let out a dull hum, a sound that, for him, represented a final, desperate hope. His partner asked if he was crazy, reminding him that Lin Xiaojing had even smashed the screen of that piece of junk. She demanded to know the point of turning it on, but he snapped back, asking what she could possibly know about it. As long as the CPU wasn't damaged, he told her, that would be more than enough. He remembered Minxi once saying that any of his unpublished sketches could be sold for over 100,000. She was stunned, wondering if that would be enough to cover her loans and the 80,000 yuan compensation. He assured her it was plenty, more than enough, in fact, to have some left over. If they sold those key designs on the black market, they could even clear the mortgage in one single stroke. She hesitated for a moment, asking the obvious question. Wasn't this, technically speaking, just plain theft? She worriedly asked what would happen if Lumin, that ungrateful brat, decided to hire a lawyer and sue them. In her mind, that would be the end of them, but Louis dismissed the idea of it being theft entirely. He reminded her that he was the elder brother, and in his eyes, an elder brother is practically a father. He asked her, with a straight face, what could possibly be wrong with using a few of his drawings. To him, this wasn't a crime. It was simply making use of the resources available to them. After all, the boy had lived under their roof for 3 years without paying a single cent. He told himself it was only fair to take a few of his things to settle the accounts. Paying off the debt this way was, in his twisted logic, the most just thing in the world. We see Lumin leaning back in his leather chair, watching more than just the living room camera on his secondary screen. On his main monitor, every mouse click and file transfer from Louis' desktop was being synchronized in real time. Greed, as we can see, is truly the most effective poison for destroying one's common sense. After a few clumsy attempts, Louis managed to guess the password to the system. Lumin watched with a cold smile, wondering if Louis truly thought his equipment was just for anyone to use. Director Liu had no idea that the monitoring software was recording his every move with clinical precision. According to the chat logs, the buyer he contacted was a notorious criminal known for reselling trade secrets. The offer on the table was 200,000, a tempting sum for a desperate man. The moment he clicked send, this transaction would become the final nail in his own coffin. By attempting to sell those files, he was committing a serious crime against the group's commercial secrets. The amount of money involved was more than enough to land him a massive fine for breach of contract, or even prison. Lumin decided to let him send it, waiting for the exact moment Louis felt victorious to activate the self-destruct program. The cold light from the transaction window flickered steadily on the screen. Louis stared intently at the message he had just been sent. Did you see that? 200,000, he whispered in disbelief. They were, according to the screen, just about to deposit the funds into his account. He told himself that, at long last, his luck was finally about to change. His wife called him incredible, already imagining how they would immediately get rid of those debt collectors. She was thrilled at the thought of finally paying off every single debt they owed. They had the money now, or so they thought, and the relief was palpable. She even suggested that with the leftovers, he could buy her a new bag to wash away the bad luck. They planned to move to a larger house the moment the money arrived, leaving Lumin behind. In their minds, that little brat could stay there and cry all he wanted. He could keep his junk, they decided, but suddenly, the screen went completely black. Louis panicked, wondering what had happened and why the file wasn't sending. He cursed the computer, frustrated that the piece of junk had decided to freeze at that exact moment. And then, he noticed the red letters, which, naturally, is never a good sign. Operation tracked, the screen read, and his wife frantically asked if he had clicked something wrong. He couldn't believe it. The file had been just a second away from sending. $200,000 had been right there, so close he could almost touch it. She snapped at him, calling him useless for not even being able to send a simple file. She urged him to restart it quickly, terrified that if the buyer backed out, she couldn't pay her online loans. Leaning back in his leather swivel chair, we see our protagonist calmly observing the screen. On the monitor, Louis's face is a perfect portrait of desperation and growing anger. With steady, deliberate fingers, he presses the Enter key on his keyboard without a hint of rush. He wondered, quite reasonably, if Louis truly thought breaking into his computer would be that easy. Director Lou, the remote lockout command has been successfully activated. The compressed file that the man had tried to create was, in the end, a fatal mistake. The document he attempted to send was completely intercepted by the security system. And just like that, the entire transfer record has been extracted. Excellent. The transaction chat history and the IP address are now in their hands. He asked if they were secured, and indeed, everything was safely locked down. The chain of evidence was now complete, leaving no room for escape. The video game company's legal representatives had been busy preparing the documents all through the night. First thing tomorrow morning, they would finally be ready to take action. He decided to let the man enjoy his very last night of peace. Tomorrow, he would show him exactly what it means to face real consequences. The next morning, Louis, sporting massive dark circles and dragging Lin Xiaobin along, was just leaving his old apartment building. That was when lawyer Lin and several legal representatives in suits approached and instantly surrounded them. Confused, Louis stammered, asking them who they were and what they wanted. He complained that even debt collectors don't block a person's door like this. He insisted to them that he would have the money very soon, which, as we know, was a complete lie. That's right, if you don't move, I'm going to call the neighborhood committee. Sister-in-law, where exactly were you two planning to go to get money so early in the morning? Why did you bring so many people? What on earth are you trying to do? Lamine, stop acting so mysterious. Do you really think you're going to scare us just by bringing a few guys in suits? I'm telling you, we are just about to get 200,000. 200,000? The money you were going to get in exchange for the main character draft of my AAA game that was on my computer? You, how do you know that? That computer. Lawyer Lin, please help them see the reality of the situation. Mr. Liu, this is the proof that last night you attempted to illegally sell our client's core trade secrets. The complete chain of evidence includes your operation logs and the transaction chat records. Everything has been notarized. Louis stammered in disbelief, asking what trade secrets they were talking about. Aren't they just some filthy drawings? What's so wrong with using them to pay the mortgage on the house? Just some filthy drawings? Brother, use your eyes and read this notice of breach of the commercial confidentiality agreement. The penalty for the breach is 5 million. 5 million? Are you insane? Lamine, this is extortion. This is a test draft for an S-level confidentiality project from the client company. You tried to sell it on the black market? This has put the entire project at extreme risk of a leak. And he realized, with a sinking heart, that 5 million was only the starting price. No, it can't be true. Min, I'm your brother, he pleaded. You're driving me to my death. I had nothing to do with it, she cried out. He was the one who stole it. Lamine simply took a cold step back, acting as if he knew nothing of their desperation. He deftly dodged Louis's hands as the man tried to pathetically cling to his leg. And so, Louis fell, landing quite miserably on the hard floor. Lamine looked down at him, without a single shred of mercy in his eyes. Min, brother, I truly know now that I was wrong, Louis stammered. 5 million. Even if you sold me, you couldn't get 5 million. We're blood brothers. You can't back me into a corner like this. Blood brothers, Lamine replied. When you stole my trade secrets to sell them, why didn't you remember that then? This has absolutely nothing to do with me, his wife shouted, trying to distance herself. She insisted it was Louis who had become obsessed and came up with the idea to steal. To each their own, she added coldly. Don't drag me into your mess. Linsha, don't talk such nonsense. Louis barked back, his voice cracking. If you weren't pressuring me every day to pay off your app debts, do you think I would have touched his computer? And now you want to wash your hands of the whole thing? Don't even dream of it, she retorted. You're the one who doesn't know how to make money, and now you blame me. I'm your wife. It is your damn obligation to support me. And now that you've gotten into this massive trouble, we are getting a divorce right now. Enough, Lamine interrupted. Stop putting on this little performance. It is true they cannot pay 5 million, but we see they still have an apartment, don't they? Linsha immediately snapped back, warning him not to even think about touching that apartment. She claimed the deeds were registered in a specific name. Louis, it is our marital property, she insisted, clinging to the only asset they had left. She even threatened to take him to court and sue him for theft if he dared to touch it. Lamine simply turned to his counsel. Lawyer Lin, please explain the law to this ignorant sister-in-law. Madam, I believe there has been a slight misunderstanding, the lawyer began calmly. He explained that although the property was indeed registered under Louis's name, it was actually his client, Lamine, who had been the one paying for it all along. Upon hearing this, Louis found himself completely paralyzed. Still on the floor, he could do nothing but stare fixedly at the bank statements. His face grew paler than the very paper he was holding. Linsha, meanwhile, could hardly believe what she was hearing. Her eyes went wide as saucers while they looked over 3 years' worth of bank transfers. The records showed everything, from the initial 800,000 down payment to the 12,000 monthly installments. Every single cent had been paid directly from Lu Min's personal account. The money went straight to the mortgage account, making the truth impossible to deny. She had lived under the impression that Louis was the one who bought the apartment. "Louis, say something," she barked. "Didn't you say this was your own savings?" But to be honest, where on earth was he supposed to have gotten that kind of money? "All my salary went toward buying you handbags and your beauty treatments," he finally confessed. "It's true. Min was the one who paid for the apartment." "You liar. You've been deceiving me for 3 whole years." Linsha screamed in a rage. "Not only are you useless, but you're just a pathetic loser without a home of your own." And so, we see the lawyer continue, explaining that he had already formally requested a precautionary seizure order from the court. This apartment would be legally seized and auctioned off to cover the damages and losses they had caused. That included the responsibility for the loan and the heavy penalties for violating trade secrets. "Louis, you are a cursed, miserable man," she spat, her voice dripping with venom. "You ruined my life. I want a divorce. We are getting divorced this very day. I won't pay a single cent of your debts." "Divorce? Don't even dream of it, you damn spendthrift," Louis shot back, finally snapping. He told her that if it weren't for her vanity and her foolish obsession with money, they wouldn't be here. He blamed her entirely for being so hell-bent on getting rid of Minshi. "Do you really think I would have ended up like this otherwise?" he demanded. "You destroyed this family. Now let go of me." "You're pathetic. I said let me go," she yelled, struggling against him. And just like that, this long, bitter farce had finally come to an end. "Mr. Liu, this is the order for the forced seizure of the property," the lawyer stated, interrupting the chaos. "Just sign the consent form, and I will handle the rest of the process myself." "Thank you very much. Let's go back to the office," Lu Min said, ready to leave this mess behind.